Good afternoon and welcome to one more webinar from Telerik India. Today we're going to be talking about the buzzword or what I call as the hotness of JavaScript, that's ECMAScript 6. I just put it like 10 new features in ECMAScript 6. So basically this is looking at kind of for every developer, I feel like these are the 10 things that really matter to every developer in the JavaScript world, because people have been doing a lot of workarounds, people have been doing a lot of verbose coding, but now with this kind of features that have been proposed for the JavaScript, it's going to make the developers life easier. So today this is a webinar on 10 new features in ECMAScript 6. Welcome aboard to everybody who are attending us today live, and also if you're watching this on demand. Those of you who are kind of regular, you would have known who's the voice behind the mic. So that's me. That's how I look. My name is Lohit GN. I work as a technical evangelist at Telerik in India. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in the area of ASP.NET. That's my official email ID, lohit.nagaraj@telerik.com. You can shoot an email if you need anything from our side, and I'll be glad to respond to that. I'm also available on Twitter as @Kashyapa. That's my Twitter identity, and I have my own blog site. It's kashyapas.com, so that where mostly I write on ASP.NET. TelrikHelper.net is a website that myself and my colleague we keep writing on Telerik related things, like how do you do something in Telerik, and most of the webinars are put up on this TelrikHelper.net. And our global website is www.telerik.com. If you want to know what Telerik does, what products Telerik has, what's our portfolio, it will be www.telerik.com. So that's a brief about me. So what are we talking about today? Basically, it's about to understand this new thing called ECMAScript 6, right? So first of all, let me ask you guys, do you know what is, why do people call this as an ECMAScript, right? Um, we as a developers, we typically say like, I'm writing a JavaScript, but in fact, it's actually you're writing an ECMAScript, or it's the ECMAScript standard that you're actually writing against. So the JavaScript language is actually adhering to the standards defined in ECMAScript or ECMA 262 standard, right? So there is a body called as ECMA 262, and ECMA 262 is a standard by itself. And the core JavaScript language features were defined as part of this ECMA 262 standard. So mind you, the ECMA 262 is just a standard which kind of laid out, hey, if there is a language called as JavaScript, it should support these features. That's all they said, but it's not that it is the JavaScript. No, it's a standard which defined the language features. The language which was developed based on this ECMA 262 standard was called JavaScript, right? The language which is defined as per ECMA 262, and the JavaScript is a superset of this, because JavaScript can run on browser, can run on the server now, the Node.js. So the JavaScript that is running in the Node.js world and the JavaScript that is running in the browser is actually a superset of this particular in a script known as ECMAScript. So this is how kind of JavaScript became kind of standard language, right? So you had a standard called as ECMA 262, which defined the features, the language features. Then a script was developed, or based on these standards, and that's what we call as ECMAScript. And pretty much JavaScript as a language is a superset of this particular ECMAScript, right? So this is typically what a history of ECMAScript is all about. When I looked at it, this looked pretty cool. 1997 is when the JavaScript or the ECMAScript 1 came into existence, or that was standardized, as you can say. And then ECMAScript 2, that is an increment, that is a language, kind of addition or bettering some things in the JavaScript 1 happened. That's 98. Then ECMAScript 3 came out in 1999, and then from 1999 till 2005, almost end of 2005, nothing happened. And during 2005, I believe, the JavaScript started going places, meaning more and more websites are doing heavy JavaScript based things, and of course the browser wars, the JavaScript, the Firefox, the IE, or the we always had the problem. If you're writing a JavaScript, you had to make sure it runs on Netscape, it runs on IE, it runs on all the whatever browsers we had. So you had to do that if-else conditions, right? So the ECMA body, what it decided was it started out what was called as ECMAScript 4. It started out in 2005. It was very ambitious project. What they did was they put in a loads and loads of features into ECMAScript 4, and something happened in 2007. What happened was it was kind of abundant, because some people inside this body, the ECMAScript, or it was actually known as TC, Technical Committee 39, they felt like the ECMAScript 4 is becoming very ambitious. We are pushing a lot of things which we cannot achieve in 4. And so what happened was the whole effort of coming out with ECMAScript 4 as a standard was abandoned. Then folks from Microsoft, folks from Google, folks from Firefox, what they did was, let's release something called as ECMAScript 3.1. Ultimately it became ECMAScript 5 in 2009. So what they did was they gave a bump to 3, a little bump to 3, but the 4 was abundant completely. Whatever feature that was frozen or whatever features they were thinking of for ECMAScript 4 was completely abundant. But in ECMAScript 5 they did make certain modifications to the JavaScript language itself, saying like, hey, I think we should give some core things made available. So that's when 2009 ECMAScript 5 came out, and then that is what we are currently coding. That is JavaScript 5, as you can call it. The current day JavaScript is actually adhering to ECMAScript 5 standards, right? If you want to go take a look at what are the specifications that are provided in ECMAScript 5 standard, yes, you can. ECMAScript has a site, and then you can just go download 1,000 pages or whatever. I don't know how many pages are there, but the spec for ECMAScript 5, that is the current day JavaScript, is available because it is a specification. It has been agreed upon. It has been frozen. It has been kind of said like, yes, this is what we're going to follow. Then what happened was so the thing started going at a fast pace. Web became if you are a web developer today, it's never been a good day for you, because the JavaScript has taken you places now. JavaScript can run on browser now. JavaScript can run on server now. JavaScript can run on mobile devices now, right? You can create a JavaScript based application which runs on your mobile as a app. So the TC committee, the technical committee said, okay, you know what, I think it's a good time to actually give a bump to JavaScript or the ECMAScript. So they started working on ECMAScript 6. If you take a look at the, I think somewhere in 2014, the ECMAScript 6, the TC committee started accepting the feature requests and all those things. And sometime in, I believe, August or September or October timeframe of 2014, they said, that's it. These are all the features that we're going to take it into ECMAScript 6. That's it. No more, nothing else. And they started working on finalizing that particular feature list. And in somewhere in July or so in 2015, that is this year, they said, okay, we have frozen the feature. And then they have said like, okay, this is the standard for ECMAScript 6. This is what will be ECMAScript 6. So they froze the feature, and they kind of finalized the feature, and they said, okay, this is the spec for year 6 or ECMAScript 6. But having said that, it's going to be still a long way for the browser vendors to catch up to that. There's a lot many things available within the ECMAScript 6. So if you ask me what is the ECMAScript 6 status in browsers as of now, mind you, ECMAScript 6 is still experimental, or what we can say it as, it's still not ready. Okay, what different vendors are trying to do is they're trying to every version of their browser being released, they're trying to slowly sneak in the ECMAScript 6 features whatever they can. In the slide as of now, what you're seeing, This is actually, the link is there. If you want to go to that link, you can now. You can go to this particular link which says kangax.github.io/compat table/ES6, or you can say ES6 compatibility table in any search engine, and then it will point you to this. And the reds mean that particular, on the left hand side, on the extreme left, the column that you see, the first column, that's the ES6 feature. So ES6, as I said, is a spec now. So they have said these are the things that will be there in the ES6, or these are the things that will be there in the ECMAScript 6. So what this table is trying to tell you is which feature is ready in which browser. The greens mean fully baked into the browser. The red means not at all there, right? Somebody is asking how much time it will take to start. I think I have started. Can you guys tell me you can hear me, see my screen and everything? I hope I'm coming live. You are able to see my slide deck, and then you should be able to see the table which has a red and green. Okay, thank you. Some of you said yes. So this is the table. If you go to that table, you can actually take a look at that. And as I said, not many greens there, right? It's too many reds there. That means the browsers are not yet ready. So how do I use it, right? So we'll see at the end, what you can do. There are certain things known as transcoders. What a transcoder or a transpiler does is it lets you write your code in ES6, but it will automatically convert the code that you write in ES6 to ES5, because remember, today's browser understands ES5 completely, because that's the spec. That is the spec that we are now living in. That is ES5. And so if you write a code in ES5, the browser will be happily able to execute it. So I want to make use of ES6, but I cannot run it completely on the browsers, today's browsers, because they don't support the ES6 modules, or sorry, the ES6 features, right? So typically what people are doing now is they use something called as transcoders. There are a couple of transcoders available. One is Babel, one is Tracer. So what this Tracer or Babel do is they pretty much take your ES6 code, and they know how to convert that ES6 code into ES5, that is ECMAScript 6 to ECMAScript 5. And typically how this, if you want to go production with this, so the way people use this is during development time, they use this runtime, or they use this transcoders called as Babel or Tracer. What this Babel or Tracer will be able to do it is you can actually run them as a client side, meaning during the development time you can run them as a JavaScript task, and as soon as you do a build, these transcoder engines will pick up any JavaScript for the file that is there in your project and convert them into ES5 and keep it into a very specific folder that you will say. So finally, ultimately, what you can do is you can just pick up the folder and then just package it, or if it is a web application, deploy it, because the code is transcoded or transpiled into ES5. It's going to run in the browser. So we're going to see, if time permits, we're going to see that also. So now, having said that, so I was talking about the transpiler. So convert ES6 code to ES5, the current standard. And some of the transpilers are Babel and Tracer. If you want, you can just go, and then I'm not going to go deep into this Babel or Tracer. By the way, Tracer is from Google. I'm not sure Babel is an open source project, I believe, but it's cool. It can convert things to this one. So now getting into the features. So I'm going to start diving into the feature list itself. So let me start getting into features now. Just give me a second. I'm just setting my, what I'm going to be using is, there is a specific, so I'm using something called as es6fiddle.com. I think pretty much most of the people know about JS Fiddle. If I want to quickly write some JavaScript code, what we can do is you just go to jsfiddle.com. So let me show that. So if you go to jsfiddle.com, this is nothing but an online editor, as you can see. jsfiddle.org maybe. Yeah, no. Okay, I keep getting confused. What's the jsfiddle.net? It's a network, okay. Those of you who are having problem with audio, what I suggest is please take a look at, go to File and go to Preferences, and there'll be an audio tab, and then you got to make sure that you have the right hardware chosen for your speakers. You know, if you typically the GoToMeeting picks up whatever it feels like. If you are having an external headset put up or anything, you'll need to let the GoToMeeting know that you need the output to be there. So that's what it is. So here what you can do is you can come in and then say, hey, I want to load a jQuery. So let me pick up jQuery 2. Sorry, not 3.0, 2.13, and then I want to quickly do something. What is it? Let's say I have a div and I keep it ID as message, and right, and I want to write a JavaScript here. So what I can do is I can say document dot ready function function, and I can just do this, any JavaScript thing that I want to do. I can come back here and then, hey, get me this element called message dot text is hello world. No demo is done without the hello world. So yeah, let's do that. So now if I run this, you should see an hello world coming. So there we go. So I got the hello world. So this is JS Fiddle, right? So JSFiddle helps you to do with any of the, if you want to quickly prototype or do something, you can pretty much do that. And we here at Telric, we have, let's say you want to learn Kendo UI and then you don't want to install anything, right? So what we have done is we have created something called as Telric Kendo UI Dojo. And then you can just come in here and then pretty much do something like this. I can put the same thing. I can say like, div ID is equal to, okay, calendar maybe. Now this will be input, and I will say type is equal to date, right? And then I can pretty much come here and then do a script tag. There's a jet flying across my home. I think the Navy is doing something, the Air Force. So now I can do the same thing. But here what we will do is since we have put up all the Kendo UI based stuff, you can say document. I'm sorry, my browser is becoming unresponsive, slow sometimes. So I can do the ready and function, and you can see, we do the auto, we give you the IntelliSense kind of things also. Now I can do the same stuff. I can say like, go get me calendar and convert this into Kendo calendar. And if I've done everything right and I do a run, I should see a calendar coming up on the right hand side. No, I know what happened. So let's make this date picker, Kendo date picker. I misspelled document. Thank you very much. I always say like, this is a collaboration, like, you help me out. I kind of, if I do my document that ready, calendar at Kendo date picker. Yeah, everything is right. Input type, calendar. Okay, let me do this. I'm going to convert this to div. And let's convert this to calendar itself. Let's hope. I'll come back. I don't know what mistake I did. I practiced this like 100 times and then still you never know. So let me come back to that. I'll let you know. But what I was trying to let you know was these are some of the things that you should be aware if you are a JavaScript guy. JS Fiddle works great with any of the JavaScript frameworks that you want. If you are interested in doing quick things about Kendo UI, so you can come in, you can create your own account in Kendo UI Dojo. So if you can see here on the left hand side, these are all the snippets that I keep coding. If you want to look at my snippets, you can always go to telric.com dojo @Kashyapa. I think it will show you all the snippets that I have, and you can pretty much keep a look at that. And let's come back to this, what we are trying to do. So now today what I'm going to use is es6fiddle.com, because I cannot, the JS fiddle will not help me with the ES6, kind of code. So what I need is, I figured out, like, there is a fiddle called as es6fiddle.com. So these guys, what they do is they help you transcode or to ES5. On the right hand, it will actually transcode and then execute the code. Right? That's pretty cool. So and let me open Babel also, because I'll want to let you know what Babel does. No, Babel IO, I think. Yeah, babel.js.io. It's known as babel.js.io. And I'm going to go to Learn ES 2015. And there is something called as REPL, or repeat. I forgot the name, what they call it, but REPL is basically an interactive environment wherein you type and then it echoes back, kind of stuff. So what you're seeing on the left hand side is the editor. On the right hand side you will see a conversion coming up. So I can do, like, function greet, and I can say return hello, and you can see on the right hand side, like, it is doing something. So the code that I wrote on the left hand side is not ES6, it's a plain JavaScript. Like, we know the function, it has a function name, and I'm doing a return. So that's why on the right hand side you see that Babel is transcoding it as is. That's because I have not written anything ES5 specific, but there are certain things called let name is equal to Lohit, right? So you see it translated it to var name is equal to Lohit. Why? That's because the keyword let is actually a new keyword in ES6, and it's pretty cool. And in ES5 there is nothing called as a let. So on the right hand side, what Babel is trying to do is it's trying to give you the var name. And then I can come in and then say const type is equal to person or whatever, and then you can see now here it says var type is equal to person, because there's nothing called as const in this one. So this is Babel. The same thing I can actually do here. Let name is equal to Lohit, right? And there's nothing on the right hand side. You see nothing, because the ES6 fiddle is all about executing the code. So if I now go in and then say console.log name, it will be able to do it. In fact, I just have to run it, and then you see on the right hand side you see Lohit, right? So this is something about these are the two things that you should kind of keep in mind. So now let's get into features. So the first feature that I want to talk about is let keyword. Just give me a second. And in the okay, so let's come back to this. So let me say, let's assume that we have a function called do work, right? And I'm going to just pass a flag, and inside here what I want to do is, if flag is true, I want to do I want to do where x is equal to maybe 10, and then finally I want to return x, right? I just want to spend 1 minute here and then ask you guys, like, what do you think will be the output for this? Will it work? Will browser have a problem? Will browser say, like, an error, undefined, whatever? What do you think? Just spend a couple of seconds and then let's move on. So I just want to understand what is happening here. So I will, of course, what I'm going to do is where output is equal to, I will say do work true, something, some hypothetical case. So what will be output now, right? So let's do that. So let me run this, and then I get empty, right? So what is happening here? So let's say I pass true. Oh, I did not do a console.log of output. Sorry, hang on. So console.log output. So let me do this. Console. Sorry about that. And I'm getting 10, right? Well, if you ask me, somebody is saying local scoping. Well, yes, local scoping, but notice I declared the variable x inside this block. I come from a land of C#, right? I come from C# or Java. You may be coming from Java, whichever languages that you code in. But we all have been taught that, hey, if you declare a variable inside a scope like this, sorry, inside a block like this, the scope of this variable is just within this braces, right? So what is happening is in JavaScript, it's very, very tricky in JavaScript. If when I pass false, let me pass false here. I'll tell you what happens. So you will notice that when I pass true, the output was 10. But now when I do a false and then do that, I don't get an error, but I don't even, let me see the console. Even in the console, I don't see an error. Yeah, this is interesting. Take a look at this. Let me run it again. Notice what happened. It says undefined. Don't you think it should have said like, hey, X has never been, X has never been defined. We should have something like that, right? Because if you I keep doing this thing called as dry run. So when I pass false, the do work flag is set to false. If false, it never gets in, and then I'm directly saying return X, but I never declared X, right? It should have thrown me an error, but JavaScript doesn't throw you an error. Rather, it says output is undefined. I mean, our X is undefined. But if I go in and then do a true and then do this, you will see happily browsers are the output coming as 10. That's because although at this line number 6, the X was never defined, what happens when you do this is the variable X, or even if you don't put a var, this variable is hoisted, or it's known as, the technical term in JavaScript is known as hoisting. It is hoisted to the top of the function. At this line, I never declared X, but X gets hoisted at this point of time, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's there. JavaScript engine will say, oh yeah, X is there, right? So basically that is what is happening. With let keyword, that's not the case. My intention was, within this block, I wanted to kind of take the create that variable, and then that scope should have been only inside that. So if I come in and there and then do a let, you see now what happened? X is not defined. So this is what we needed. This is what was missing. I know, many people have spent like a days figuring out why a particular variable is coming with a particular value when I never said that. That's because of the hoisting within a function. If you kind of use the same, if you use a variable without declaration, yeah, that's fine with JavaScript. That is current standard ECMAScript 5. It just hoists that particular variable to the top of the function, and then there's no error. It's a valid JavaScript, and of course it just sets it as output, the undefined. With ES6, that's not the case. So instead of var, you should start using let in ES6. So whenever you want to declare a variable, you can do a let. So this let keyword is very interesting. Let me do this another function. So I will say for var I, okay, typically we do this, right? Var I is equal to 0, and I do I less than or equal to 10, and I increment I, right? I'm not going to write anything. So now I can just come in and say console.log I. What do you think will be the output here now? I'll just give it 5 seconds for anybody to just put it into the question and answers panel. So I just wrote 2 lines of code here. What would be the console.log statement coming out with? Will it print undefined? Okay, a couple of you got it right. So it's I is equal to 10, right? I can do this also. I don't have to declare I. I'm sorry, I don't have to put var keyword. Oh, I is equal to 0, less than or equal to, okay. We did a plus plus, so that's why let me do this. I is not defined. So now what happens is, because we did this, when I come out of this for loop and then I do a console.log of I, the I is still available. That's because as soon as it saw that, hey, you're declaring a var I, it hoists it to the starting of the function and then assume this is a function, and then that's why we still have got the I coming out. So what if I wanted this I to be only inside this block, right? So I can just come in here and then say let. Now you will see like, I is undefined. There you go, I is not defined. So this is absolutely required in JavaScript. This will kind of take away all those silly mistakes that people normally do with respect to scoping. I wanted I to be available, or I wanted I to live within just this block. So now what happened with let I is equal to 0 is the I scope is only here. That's it. It doesn't go out of this brace. So that's what let does you. So I hope you understand why you need a let. So when ES6 starts becoming mainstream, I think forget where, start using let, and they will start standardizing that also when the browsers will start allowing you to do that. So let is the first feature that we're gonna take a look at. I mean, we took a look at today. So let is very interesting declaration thing. And then now const keyword, right? So as I said, we come from C# or whatever typed languages. So in all these typed languages, we have this concept called, hey, there are certain things that I don't want to change. We typically, if there is a magical strings that we use, so there's a concept that there's a terminology that we developers or programmers we use in programming, that wherever you are checking something like if day is equal to Monday. So this whatever string that you see within double quotes, we call them as magical strings. It's very bad for you to put these magical strings in line. Rather, what you should do is you should actually define like where Monday underscore label is equal to Monday, and instead of uh, doing a string comparison, you should do like this. So this is a good practice. Why? Because if tomorrow Monday label changes to Tuesday, and if you had done, let's say there were hundreds of whatever, there were many lines which were actually using that string, then you have to go and then manually you have to go and then pretty much go change every place. Rather, if you use it a constant like this, you just change it here, and everywhere else the logic is going to go through and then do it. But in JavaScript, what we can do is after a first maybe after this, I can just come back and then do this Monday underscore label is equal to 10. This is a valid perfect syntax in JavaScript, right? So let me show you this. So I can come back here and then do a console.log Monday underscore label, and I can do the same console.log after setting it to 10. And now if I run it, day is not defined. Okay, let me remove this guy for a while. No, we don't need that guy. So as you can see, Monday label is Tuesday in one line, and then Monday label is 10 in another line. Well, this was good and bad in JavaScript, right? JavaScript is not a typed language, so there's nothing which stops you from saying like, hey, at one line it's a string, at another line it's a 10. But what if I wanted this guy never to be changed, right? So now you can come back here and then do like, hey, do this, and notice what the output we get, or the error message we get. It says Monday label is read only. That is what I wanted, right? I don't want you to change it, but I want you to use it. So it's a constant. It's a constant value. I'll set it up in the front, starting of the function or starting of the module or whatever your logic, and then that will be used by anybody else, but they cannot change it. So now with ES6, you get that particular feature out of the box. So you can start making use of this constant strings, whatever you need, and then make use of that. So I like this pretty much. It's required. It was missing, and you, as you can see with ES5, I can pretty much go and then do whatever I want to Monday label. Assume you get a new developer and then he never understood what the function is, and then he never, of course I've seen people just, I always tend to keep these labels meaningful. I'm saying Monday underscore label. What if somebody said M label? You don't know, a particular developer has done a constant like this, saying like, variable like this, saying M label. He started using everywhere M label, and one fine day he moves out of to different project, and somebody else comes in and then they don't know what M label stands for, and they will say M label is equal to 10. and your whole function is broken or whatever, depending on your thing. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you needed a constant in JavaScript, now you have the keyword supporting it in ES6, ECMAScript 6, and that is, you just use the keyword const, you create a variable, and again, notice nobody says you got to do it in a caps. This is just something that I've been following, or I've seen people following, that whenever we have a constant being defined, we typically go ahead and then change its case and then make it all case and all uppercase, because just to say that, hey, this is a special variable, right? Yeah, the JavaScript will never keep, if I do it as, okay, constant Lohit, and I can just come in here and then do a Lohit, it doesn't care. It's gonna just output Tuesday, right? So the whatever value is stored in that. So what I'm trying to say is, this is just a practice. Whenever there is a constant that we create, we normally do it as uppercase, and that's what it is. So that's the second feature that I'm very interested in ES6, the const keyword. So we saw let and const now. Default params. This is interesting. So let's say I'm creating a function, and I will let's say I want to do a calc or add, right? And then there's num1 and there's num2. This is very stupid thing that I'm doing, but well, let's see. So I'm going to say, like, where num1 is equal to num1 r, I'll say 1, where num2 is equal to num2 r, or maybe let's do 0. I'm just going to, so what I'm trying to do here is, I don't know if the user is going to fill it up, so I'm just making sure that or I'll say A, B, and I'll say A plus B, right? And then I'll call this guy console.log. Let's say add, I'll just call add as is. What do you think will be the answer now? It should be 0. There you go, right? So what I'm trying to do is, I'm doing a defensive programming in JavaScript. So this is a pretty much what I do even in my C# and everything. What I do is I pretty much check if all my requirements are met or not for my function. So I tend to do them upfront. I tend to do that upfront. So in JavaScript, how do you do it? So this is a falsy conditions, right? I'm saying if num1, meaning, hey, if it is not undefined, use that. Otherwise, set 0, use 0. Similarly, if num2 was not passed, set 0. So now I can come back here and then say like 10. And there you go, you get 10, right? Of course, when I do 10 comma 10, I'll get 20, right? So now with default params, what happens is, you don't have to do this. I can just say num is equal to 0, num2 is equal to 0, and we should get back 0 now. Oh, B is not defined. Oh, then no need for me to do an A plus B. Sorry about that. So all I can do is I can say num1, num2. As I said, this is a stupid thing. Nobody will pass empty to an add, but I'm trying to make a point that, hey, now with JavaScript ES6, ECMAScript 6, this is what you get. You can say num1 is equal to 0, num2 is equal to 0, and then just do that. So if you don't pass anything, I'm going to default it to 0. But if you pass me something, I will use that, and then the second one becomes 0, and then if you pass me again a number, I will do that. There you go. So this is the default parameters thing that we have in so this is what you get with the default parameters. This is pretty much cool. So in C# we tend to do this all the time. Whenever we are creating a function which will be consumed by somebody else, and then I don't know how they're going to consume it. So what we do is we default certain parameters that are required, and we set it. So even if you don't pass it, it has a default value, and then the code starts working. So that's what we do with the default parameters. So that is the default params feature that's going to be coming up in this one. So let me show you what happens in ES5. If I take this code, remember there's no concept of this equals in ES5, right? So if I do this, take a look at what it does. If you had to do this way in ES5, there's only one way that you can do it. Just give me a second. So what you see on the right hand side is when I write num is equal to 0, num is equal to 2, the way you can do today in ES5 is you just do the defensive programming. That is, if the argument's length is less than 0 or arguments of 0 is undefined, then use 0, otherwise use argument 0. If the num2, if the arguments dot length is less than or equal to 1 and then arguments 1 is undefined, then use 0, otherwise use arguments 1. Right? So this is what you should be doing if you want to do a defensive programming or you want to support this default parameters in ES5. So this is interesting, right? So you can pretty much do like this. And then that's the default param that we saw. Now, another interesting one that I like is this thing called as template strings, right? Let's say I have greet. I'm going to create a function greet, and I'm going to expect a name to come in here. And all I want to do is I want to say return hello, and then I want to say hello whatever. If I pass Lohit, I want to say hello Lohit. How do you do it in today in ES6? Well, there's only one way, and that is hello plus name, and then I can say console dot log greet, and then I will say Lohit. Right now, if I run, yeah, I'm gonna get it. It's not a problem. Like, let me put a string here, so I'm getting it. Right? So what if I had some more? It's like I'm gonna pass Lohit, and I'm gonna say 37. So it's like then I may want to say like plus you are getting nearer to 40, right? I know, whatever. I'm just trying to prove a point here. Okay, or you'll say your age is, and then I want to put the age. So what I do, I again do a concatenation, and that is, here I can say age, and I have to do this, right? So and so this is how you do it, right? So if I do, it says hello Lohit, your age is 37. But with ES6, there's a cool way. Let me show you this. The cool way is, let's remove this double quotes, everything. Remember, I need the name there. So I'll keep the name as is. I'm going to remove all this stuff, and I need the age there. So all I need to do is I need to use a back tick. Remember, I'm not using a single quote. I'm using a back tick. So typically on your keyboards, if you know what a character tilde is all about, so that's the key which has a tick. It's known as a back tick. So I'm using this. Now I can come in here and then say dollar brace, bracket open, bracket close, dollar bracket open, bracket close. And it's still gonna work as is. There you go. Right? So this is one of the good things that have happened to JavaScript, the templated strings. Now I don't have to worry about concatenation. I can just use the placeholder. So this is like string interpolation, and not only that, with this backtick, what I can do is I can do multi-line. I don't have to worry about plus signs. I was so yeah, it's like a string interpolation. So I was getting so pissed off with those plus and then you're nothing. I can come in here and then I can say like of course, if you want to place new line, you do a /n. Those things stay as is, and then I can say have a good day, and it's a multi-line string. Oh, why didn't okay, I think if you see in the console window, it's able to print the multi-lines, but this right-hand side console is just a string. It just shows a string. It doesn't do a line. But yeah, on a DOM, you will still see a line coming up. So as you can see here, I have hello Lohit, then the next line, your age is 37, and then it says have a good day, right? This is fantastic news because now you can do any kind of string interpolation, any kind of you want the data to be there or anything, you can do this way. You can put a placeholders and then use that and then do that. So this is templated strings or template strings as we call it. So that's one of the features. And let's move ahead. Arrow functions. This is fantastic. Let's say you want to create a square function. You want to create a square root, or sorry, square. I give a number and then I want a square of that number, right? In math is there, but what typically we would do it, we'll create a SQR and then we'll say, okay, what's the value? And then you will say return, well, x star x is the square, right? If I pass 2, the square of 2 is 4. If I pass 4, the square of 4 is 16, like that, right? Now how do I call it? It's simple. You will say console.log and you will say square and then you will pass 4 and then we would get 16, right? Nothing great. You're okay with this way, but there's another cool way now. I can come in here and then I can say let sqr equal to, I'll just take a look at what I will do now. It's a new syntax now. It's known as arrow. Do you see an arrow here? It says equals and then a greater than sign. So this is known as an arrow. Now I can just come in here and then do this. So I still get 16. Yeah, somebody's saying it's a Lambda expression. Absolutely. So Lambda expression is available in C#. So what now you can do is, you don't need to create function bodies or anything. You can just come in here and then say like, hey, let's do this way, right? It's all about these kind of things that you can do. Now, let's say not only just this. Let's say I have let numbers is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, whatever, right? Now I can come in and then say nums dot for each, and I can say like, I want the n, and if v percentage 2, that is, I'm trying to see if this is an even or odd, and I can do console.log even. So notice what is happening. I'm writing a Lambda expression on the fly now. So you don't need a function. Otherwise, what you would have to do is you would have to create a callback now. And now if I do this, v is not defined. Okay, sorry, it's not v, it's a n. And there we go. So in my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have only 3 even numbers, right? I can even go and then print it. So what I can do, oh yeah, now look at the screen interpolation now, right? What I can do is I can say n. That's it. Oh, I need to use a backtick. Sorry about that. So you cannot use a double quotes. If you want to do a string interpolation, you need to use a backtick. And there we go. 2 is even, 4 is even, 6 is even. So that's as easy as it is. And we are used to these Lambda expressions in C# or I don't know which language has it, maybe Java, not sure. So this is what the Lambda expression is all about. I am saying like, hey, now let me show you what happens with this code. How would you write this in current day? Right? If you go to Babel and then just go and then paste it, well, as I said, it's going to be a function. You need to just say function n, but why should it be a function, right? I mean, it's like, oh, it's a word terse or it's a verbose, I need to say function of n. Now here is another problem. With this, what happens is if I do this inside this function call, you'll be surprised to see what is the what this refers to inside this in current ES5. It will always be this new instance of the function because it's a function, right? But with ES5, if I say this, it's gonna get the correct scoping. That is the whatever outside scope it was there. It's gonna give you the correct scoping. That's how it is. Okay, so that's the arrow function. So let me give you another simple example. I think there is an arrow functions here. So this is what it is. Notice the way the codes have been written. There is a square, so I have x, then there is add. So if you have multiple parameters that you want to take into your function, you can just do a brace. And if you want to create a function which does not take any parameters, you will need to do a empty brace. If you see here, empty brackets open, empty bracket close, and then I'm calling console.log square of 5, add 3 of 4, pi. Very handy function, kind of a lambda things. And that is what we have been. I mean, this is something pretty cool. I'm looking forward to what we can use, what we can do with these kind of things. And notice how simple the syntax is also. It doesn't kind of collude your code. It's easier. Does TypeScript latest version support ES6? I believe it does. I would have to check back, but I do know that if you use Visual Studio Code, you can create TypeScript, and then you can have Babel convert the TypeScript into ES5. So yes, oh yeah. If you use Visual Studio Code and then you tell the TypeScript to you can actually tell TypeScript to what target version the code should be generated, because TypeScript is a very higher level language. It is not JavaScript actually. I mean, although it's a JavaScript, but the TypeScript code will not be understood by the browser. So you need to convert the TypeScript into ES5, or you can actually convert that into ES6 also. There is a way. If you go to Visual Studio Code, the website, they have an instruction as to how to let the Visual Studio Code convert your TypeScript into the ES6. That's about the arrow function. So this is something cool which is coming up. So arrow function, as I said, you can let your imagination go wild. What all the things that you can do with this kind of things. This is the you know what do you call the simple things, square, add, and apply. But it's up to you what you want to do. You can pretty much do a lot of things with this arrow function. REST params. So let's take a look at what does REST params do, right? Let's say I have function add, and just give me a second. And we're going to be talking about REST parameters. So I'm going to create an add, and then I'm going to say maybe numbers or whatever, right? And maybe the call, while calling, I want to do this way: console.log add 1,2. That's one, and then another one maybe at some point of time I want to pass 3 parameters. Yeah, somebody is asking, do a webinar on TypeScript. Yeah, we'll come back on that. We'll see when we can do a TypeScript webinar. So surely, for sure. So something like this. So I want to do this way, and let's do what we get inside here. So what I'm going to do is console, or I can actually do remove this console.log, and I will say arguments dot length, right? I'll say return. Let's see what this comes up with. I'll say return. Making all sorts of spelling mistakes today, not sure. Okay, there you go. So this is the way you would do it, right? You will always go into something called as arguments. The function had this concept called as argument. So now if I want to enable this to sum whatever it can, I would have to do something like var total or var sum is equal to 0 for var counter is equal to 0, counter less than arguments dot length counter plus plus, and what you would do is you would do like sum plus equals arguments of counter, right? This is what you would typically do. I'm just looping through the arguments whatever they're coming in, and then I will say return sum, and there you go. So you do this way, right? So with ES6, it has become easier. I know in add, I'm going to get only numbers, right? I mean, if somebody has sent string, I cannot help it. But I know for sure the function add is supposed to take only numbers. So what I can do is I can just do this. I can say numbers and then come back here. And then instead of arguments, forget arguments now. I can just say numbers and numbers of counter. And it works. There's no problem because that is how this new cool thing. I like this fact, like, I can just tell, or if even if somebody is reading this, right, so you can actually make out like, oh, this is a function called add and it is expecting numbers to be sent, right? That's as cool as it can get. So now whatever, so if you even if you want to send a string array, you can just do dot 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 and then whatever, like, function greet, and then I can just do names, right? Now I can come back here and then say for, or let's do this. Let's make use of names dot for each name. There you go. I'm now using all the ES6. How easy it is. For each name, I want to come in and then just do console.log hello. Let me use a backtick. Now you get the point. You know why you need ES6. So this is as simple as it can get. Otherwise, you remember, you see what you have to do, all those things, right? Now I can come. Okay, I did not close the backtick. And I can come back here now and then say console.log greet, and I can pass Lohit, and I can say Abhishek, right? And there we go. So hello Lohit, hello Abhishek, right? So the triple dot is a spec as of now. So you need to say dot dot dot. Otherwise, that's how the ES6 engine will know that, oh, this is going to be like, a more than one parameters coming in. It's equivalent to an argument. So if I take this particular function dot dot names and then take this guy and then come back here to Babel and then do this, you will see like, what it does. It's basically doing what you would do in today's world. That is names.forEach. It creates a function, and then notice what it is doing. It is doing a arguments.length, and then it creates a new array and then puts everything into that array, and then I'm doing a array.forEach, right? So this is a pretty good a tool in order to say like, okay, how would we write this today if we have to do this way? I know ES6 allows me to do it this way, but how would I do this in today's world? Yeah, there you go. Right? So undefined, that may be because of the length. Why would it, oh, where did it go? Names, hello name. Interesting. Why is it giving me undefined? Okay, let me come back to that. I'm not sure what it is doing. It may be this particular tool is doing that. What happens if the arguments are not passed? Oh, that's a good question. So let's try this out. So I'm going to say greet, and there's nothing. So you don't get an error because this it is as it does all the things, right? It's just checking if there's something, anything on the names or not. So let's see what the console has. So console pretty much will have undefined. Yeah, don't worry about this undefined. Looks like this particular tool is doing something, but as you can see, no error. That's important. If there was something in the names, he's going to go do a for each. Otherwise, he's not going to do it, right? So it's already 1 o'clock. So let's get cranking generators. So basically, if you look at the generators here, so this is another interesting thing that in C# we could do our own iterators by making use of a concept called as yielding. So yielding is nothing but when you use a yield keyword, the execution will remember what was the last stop it did, and then whenever next I ask, he's going to go next of that particular index, right? It's typically when you do it whenever you're doing an iteration over an array or anything, because array supports an iterator interface. So in JavaScript, in ES6, what you can do is you can just put a star in front of the function, as you can see here, function star, and then you create your iterator function. You can say range start end step, and you just say while start less than end, yield start, and then start plus equal to step, Now I can iterate over that. For let I of range 0, 10 in the step of 2, console.log I, and you can see, like, it starts with 0, plus 2, plus 4, plus 6, plus 8, right? So how is it able to, how is it possible for it to do? It's because of this keyword called yield. It just stays there. It understands the state, the last state that it came there, and then next time when I do a for and then say, okay, now give me the next one, it jumps next and then tries to give you the from the same range. So that's what the iterator does. And let me see if any other example I can give for iterator. What else I can give? You can create your own iterator also. Pretty much, I'm not getting into that. So generators. Okay, let me take a generator in. So I have some code. Let me try to see if we can do that. Okay, let's get going because already 1 o'clock. So generators, you got the point that, in ES6 you have this concept of star that you can put against a function, so that becomes a generator. And there are iterators also available. So let me show you that. This is the iterator concept. An array is an iterator now. In ES6 an array you will be able to iterate over an array. So that's what I'm trying to do here. If you see there, I'm just you cannot do this in ES5. So let me show the code in ES5. See this? You cannot do for let v of r array. So this is a primitive array in integer array, right? In ES5, that is the current JavaScript, there is no concept of iterator for arrays at all. So if you had to iterate through the array, you have to do for counter is equal to 0, the array.length, array of, and then you would do it. But take a look at what ES6 will give you. It's going to make our life easier. I can just say for v in the array of array, and then that's it. I start looping. So if you see here, if I do this, I get 15. Why? Because I am able to loop through the complete array, right? So this is another interesting thing, the iterators and then the generator. So iterator is out of the box. You have iterator, but if you want to create your own iterator, yes, it is possible. You can actually go and then create your own iterator. I'm not going to go deep into that, but I hope you get the message that, iterator, you can create your own custom iterators also, right? There's an example. Let me see if I can quickly see if it works. I'm not sure. I just read it somewhere. So print. Okay, Chrome understood this as a print thing. Come on, I don't want this. What? Okay. I got into a loop now. Just hang on. So so this is a custom iterator that I'm trying to create. So I will say console.log of n semicolon and then this. So let's see if this works. And there we go. So this is a custom iterator, right? What I did was I created an iterator called Fibonacci. And then I'm just saying for each number in Fibonacci, keep on going. So I break only when I reach close to 1000. So what I'm doing here is, do you see this next? That's how the iterator concept. So the current one, and you need to just attribute the symbol.iterator. That's how you do it. And it's like a function. And whenever you call a next thing, that you keep going. So then I'm doing a next, and then I'm doing done. So this is important. You got to let it know if it is done or not. So you can say done false. No, it's not done. So when I break here, that's it. I'm going out of this particular Fibonacci. Otherwise it keeps on going. I can go and then just put this to 2000 maybe. So it keeps on going. There we go. And let's see, I'm going to go a little bit higher number, 10,000, and it keeps going. and the break is not inside this iterator. The break is actually here, which breaks from the for loop. Otherwise, this next keeps getting called. So because I'm saying var n of Fibonacci, the next keeps getting called, and then the next what we are doing is we are just adding the current plus the temp. So I had stored a temp value. I'm just doing the temp thing going again and again. So this is how you can create your own custom iterator, and then you can also create your own custom generator to generate. You saw the generator what we did in the previous. So that's about the generators and iterators. Maps. So this is another interesting thing. This has always been lacking in JavaScript. In typed languages like Java or C#, we have this concept of hash maps. Wherein you have a key and a value pair, right? So we did not have that in JavaScript. So now what you can do is you can create a map, and it's pretty cool. So you can set a particular key and give a value. So you can see here I'm using a string. I'm creating it today, which is nothing but a date time, and it has this two string. I hope you guys are able to hear me. Yeah. So it is using all these things, and it's pretty much similar to whatever you do. And notice the usage of how we can use arrow functions now, right? I can just loop through this X, the map, and this is for each. The syntax is value, key, and a map, right? I can now run this. You will see values, iterable console.log value. Where is this getting printed? So after the third one, okay, is a number key one object map. So it's giving you all this thing, um, is a key, is a number key. That is the value. The key is one. The map is like this. So you can now start making use of maps whenever you have a requirement wherein you want to store data based on a key value pair. I want a key, and then against that I want a value. So this is the map thing that you can use. Now coming to the interesting piece, that's the classes. So take a look at this. I'm creating a class polygon, and I'm creating let me increase maybe. Yeah, so you should be able to see this now. So in JavaScript, we never have this concept of creating a class or anything. Let's say I wanted to create a class like this in ES6, right? ES5, right? Current JavaScript standard. Well, this is how you had to do that. You needed to create a function, and then you had to use define properties. You had to use a prototyping, everything. On the right hand side, you can see the current JavaScript code, and it doesn't look good if you have to create this concept of class and then you instantiate the class and all those things. If you see here, all it is doing is it is using a define properties and then creating it. Let's come back to ES6. So this looks very neat. I call class, give it a class a name, and then this is a new syntax that is constructor, and then you pass whatever you want, and you create the class level variables here, assign the whatever data came in, and then this is a function on the class itself, right? And then look at the inheritance that I can do. Class square extends polygon, and then I'm calling constructor. I'm passing a length, and of course polygon has a width and a height, and in case of square, the width and height are the same. So I'm calling my super constructor, that is the parent. Who is the parent? It's polygon. So I'm calling super, and super expects height and width. So I'm setting it, and notice here I'm setting the name here. So now the child overrides whatever parent properties it was. It's a classic oops concept, right? So when I say this dot name is equal to square, and that's it. And now I have two things here. Oh yeah, somebody's saying we should start early from next webinar. Yeah, we'll do that. So class, it has its own property called as area. And take a look at this syntax now. You can create public properties on your classes by making use of this concept called as getters and setters. You just say get, and you define the variable name as a function. That's it. Now this has become a property, and that's why I'm able to do s.area. Whereas say name is a function. Notice I haven't put anything in before it, so that becomes a method, a class method. Whereas this becomes an attribute of the particular class, or it becomes the property of the class. So get area. Now I'm saying let s is equal to new square of 5. So the constructor of square is called. It goes ahead and then calls the parent constructor, and you are setting the name. And I can now call a say name, or I can call the area. So when I say say name, I should see hi, I am a square. And then when I say console.log s.area, I will get this.height into this.width, right? So let's run this. And there you go. Hi, I am a square, and then 25 is my square area, right? Because I passed the 5. So this is one of the interesting things for me in ECMAScript 6. You know, this concept of classes. Of course, it's not that I couldn't create this. As I said, I could always go ahead and use the prototype pattern and then create a class, right? Prototype pattern is nothing but you would go in and then say like, where employee is equal to function, you create an empty function, right, like this, and then you will say employee dot prototype is equal to, and then you will say name, and then you have to do a function, return this dot name, right? You could always do this, but this was a very tertiary thing, right? Very verbose, right? So somebody is asking, how can I access a parent property? Well, it follows the same oops concept. If you have a name here, I'm able to use it. So that's what I did. So that's how you pretty much are able to use a parent property, right? It's as simple as that. So the child inherits all the parent stuff. So in the interest of the time, I'm not going to go any more deep into this. And I want to show the next one, which is, I think, modules. Yeah. Modules are interesting concepts. So I'm not, this particular ES fiddle cannot showcase modules here, because, for modules to work, you need to be with file system, and then, meaning you got to have a JavaScript file and then do all those things. So what I will do is I'm going to show you a couple of example. Just give me a second. Yeah. So what do you do with modules is what you can, it's like this. I create my own class file called as employee.js, and I will say like, this is a module now, an employee module, and then I will export it. So it can be anything. As you can see here, I can create a JavaScript file, give it some name. I will say export where color is equal to red, export let name is equal to Nicholas, export constant magic number. Now all these three are available in some other file for me because I've exported it as a module system. And in the file, wherever I need to consume it, I would have to come back and then say import whatever variable or whatever constant, whatever variable name, and from so and so file. That's it. That's the whole syntax of module related stuff. Let me see if I can show you some concepts on this. Just give me a second. I'm going to bring up our native script code. So we have a technology called native script. Native script is a Java, a technology which lets you use JavaScript, and you can build native Android and iOS application. But what we do in native script is we pretty much allow you to use the module system. So now let me open this in Visual Studio Code. So the module concept is actually borrowed from something called as CommonJS. So it uses the CommonJS module system, and then in the ES6 also you will be able to pretty much do the same way. So let me show you how the module system works. So what I'm opening now is a source code of our native script project, but the whole native script is built on CommonJS standards, ES5 standards. Slowly we'll be supporting ES6 in native script, but currently let me show you how we let you do the module system. So take a look at this. I have this file called main view model.js file, and at the last, if you notice here, it's a simple JavaScript. Mind you, this is actually an Android application and an iOS application. Single source code base, but I can actually package this for Android, package this for iOS, and then all I have done is I've used my JavaScript knowledge to create a mobile application. but it is using this concept of the module pattern. So what I did was I created a file called mainViewModel.js. Notice there's nothing here. This is just an observable array, observable object, and I'm creating certain properties like set method, action, some function, and the last what I'm saying is exports dot main view model is equal to main view model. So I'm now created a module called main view model, and I've exported that. Where can you consume it? Take a look at here. It says var VM module is equal to require main view model, right? So this is using the require syntax, which is nothing but a common JS syntax. But in ES6, what you will be able to do is, let me show you that. So you can actually come back here and then do these things. Import identifier 1, identifier 2. It can be a function, it can be a variable, whatever it is, from a particular module, right? I can say this, import sum from example. So there's an example.js file, and I have said export sum in that particular file, and now here I can do import sum. Similarly, I can do a lot of things. Import sum multiply magic number from example, and I can do that. Sum one whatever. I can say export star, meaning everything that is there inside examples, import it as example. So I'm giving an alias. It's pretty similar to what you would do in C#, right? You will say using class name is equal to, and then you alias that class, or you will say using that particular namespace. Similarly, this is what you're doing in even ES6. I'm sorry, I ran out of time. In order to do this, I've taken nearly 1.5 hours now. So maybe sometime in future I'll explore completely a module-based, maybe a webinar. We'll see. But that's what it is. So as you can see here, this is how cool it can get. It's very important, it's very needed also, the module system in JavaScript. So that's pretty much what I had for today's webinar. I wanted to talk about the 10 things that I'm really interested to see in ES6 go mainstream. And sorry, I could not show all the other tools like a Babel or a Tracer. Visual Studio Code does a very good job of translating your JavaScript into, you can use Babel and write ES6 in Visual Studio Code, and Babel will translate your ES6 into ES5. And TypeScript already has this capability to translate your code from TypeScript to ES6 or TypeScript to ES5. It's up to you, whichever one you want to use it. So thank you very much. You have been a great audience for today. And then, and then pretty much if you have any questions, please write to me at lohit.nagaraj